Let's talk about a king from almost 900 years ago. His name was Henry II, and his ideas were so revolutionary they didn't just change England, they actually still shape our world today.
So to get a sense of just how powerful this guy was, try to wrap your head around this. One person in charge of all of England, who also happens to rule a massive piece of France at the exact same time. For Henry II, this wasn't some hypothetical question. This was his reality.
So who was this king? Well, he came from a family with a very famous name. And the story of where that name came from is, well, probably not what you're expecting.
In the year 1154, Henry takes the throne, and he doesn't just start a reign, he starts a dynasty. His family line would stay in power for more than 3 centuries. I mean, that is an incredible run, and it all started with him. And that family name, Plantagenet? You're not going to believe this, but it came from a plant. No, really. Henry's dad liked to wear a sprig of a yellow flower called a broom plant in his hat. The Latin for that is Plantagenista. The nickname just stuck. And that's how one of the most powerful families in history got its name.
All right, so he's the king, he's got the cool family name, but Henry wasn't the type to just sit around. He didn't just settle for England. He went on to build this gigantic territory that we now call the Angevin Empire.
Just to give you an idea of how big this was, picture a map. Henry's empire started way up at the border of Scotland, ran all the way down through France, and only stopped at the Pyrenees Mountains between France and Spain. It was absolutely massive, and he was constantly on the move to keep it all under control.
Now here's the really wild part. Get this, Henry II, the King of England, controlled more land in France than the actual King of France did. The French king basically just had the area around Paris. Henry, well, he had most of the rest.
So you're probably wondering, how did he pull that off? Well, it was basically a 2-step plan. First, he inherited a lot of land from his parents. And second, he made an incredibly smart marriage to one of the most powerful and influential women in all of Europe, Eleanor of Aquitaine. But you know, as huge as that empire was, it wasn't even his greatest achievement. His most important legacy, the thing that lasted the longest, was how he completely changed England's legal system. He created what we now call English common law. See, before Henry, laws were a total mess. Every local lord had their own rules. So something that was perfectly fine in one village could get you into serious trouble in the next. Henry's idea was radical for the time. One single set of laws that applied to everyone, everywhere in the kingdom. And this is how he did it. It was a simple but brilliant plan. First, he sent his own judges out to travel across the country. Second, those judges used the exact same royal laws wherever they went. And third, he made it common to use juries. That's groups of regular local people to help decide the facts of a case. This whole process made the system much, much fairer. But Henry's time as king wasn't all empire building and new laws. He was a powerful guy, but his reign was filled with drama, especially 2 major conflicts that would end up defining his life. The first was a really tragic falling out with his best friend, a man named Thomas Becket. Henry actually made him the Archbishop of Canterbury, which is the top job in the English church. But they started to clash over a huge question. Who had more power, the king or the church? The fight got so bad that in 1170, 4 of Henry's knights went and murdered Becket inside Canterbury Cathedral, thinking they were doing what the king wanted. This is the famous line Henry supposedly shouted out of pure frustration. We'll never know if he actually wanted Becket dead, but his words were heard, and they led directly to the murder of his friend. It created a massive scandal that horrified all of Europe. And as if that wasn't enough drama for one lifetime, Henry's other huge conflict came from the one place you'd think he'd be safe, his own family. He had to deal with constant rebellion from his own kids. So here's the problem. Henry had 4 very ambitious sons, including the future kings Richard the Lionheart and John. He gave them titles and promised them lands, but he kept all the real power for himself. So they got frustrated and started teaming up with Henry's enemies, like the King of France, to literally wage war against their own father, again and again.
So, after a life packed with incredible success and intense personal drama, how should we remember Henry II? What did he really leave behind?
Let's just start with this number. Over 300. That's how many years the Plantagenet Dynasty that Henry founded continued to rule England. That alone is a pretty incredible legacy.
But when you add it all up, his legacy is immense. He created the foundation for the legal systems used in many countries today, like the United States, Canada, and Australia. So whenever you see a courtroom drama on TV, you're watching a system he helped create. He brought order to a chaotic world, he built a stronger government, and he was the father of two of England's most famous kings.
And that brings us to a final thought. Every single time you hear about a trial by jury, or just the basic idea that the law should be the same for everybody, you are seeing the legacy of a king who lived nearly 1,000 years ago. So it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Which of his ideas is still shaping your world right now?